How do sanctions destroy the environment? It's a pleasure having Stuart Turley, CEO and president of Sandstone Group, an energy data and finance consultancy. Good afternoon, Stuart Turley.
Oh, hey, good afternoon, Armando. How are you?
Fantastic. Waiting for your presentation. Sorry, because the link, I forgot to send you the link before.
I I was
Sometimes
pulling my hair out, so
oh my God. Stuart, please, let me start with, uh, for me, a very impressive point that
okay.
the US imposed economic sanctions on more than 20 countries since 1998 in more than 1,000 cases, different types of sanctions promote democracy and war. This certainly has all types of consequence. What do you think about this?
I'll tell you what. I have to give a shout out to Irina Slav. Her quote I've been using everywhere: "Sanctions don't work as intended." Today, Putin, I believe it was yesterday. Let me call the article up. He just put out that Russia's um, economy is up. I believe it's up to 3.5. I'm running right now. Putin says, where are you? There it is. Russia is becoming the new growth center as the West rests on its laurels.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. Russia has done extremely well, even with the weaponization of sanctions from the EU and the US. For them to be able to say, Moscow says their gross domestic product was set to grow at 3.5, rebounding from a 2.1. For somebody that's at war and being sanctioned, those are some incredible numbers for GDP growth. Now, ballpark, I have to fact check this. Energy export is, I think, around the 35% of Russia's GDP. We have to remember that Gazprom, the cost for Gazprom to get natural gas out is about 13 cents. That's not bad. So you can sit back and think how much profit is in their natural gas. So you can also look at how much profit is in their oil. They know how to deliver oil cheaper. So when we sit back and say, do sanctions work? Armando, the sanctions started with Iran. When Iran started getting their sanctions, they started figuring out ways around them. This goes in line with the Dark Fleet. When Trump was president, they were doing 400,000 barrels per day. Under the Biden administration, with the sanctions that are on them, they're now up. They're going to be up. I believe it's 3.1 to 3.2 million barrels per day now.
Wow, my God.
Sanctions don't work.
Work.
They have been
Stuart,
fun
a technical problem only. We have a little noise in the background
in
sound
mine.
coming. Yes, probably.
Okay, in mine. Let's take a look here. Is it work?
Oh, yeah, it's better now. Yeah, but I'm not hearing you.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but the noise is stronger. Sometimes happen.
Okay, let me check my speaker. Camera, audio. Okay, is this any better?
N-
It is.
Not yet. It's almost the same.
Okay, is this any better? Still the same?
Still the same.
Okay, is this any better?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Now it's
Okay,
perfect.
okay, got
Now
it.
it's good. It's good. But
Sorry.
you mentioned. iron that's producing 3 million barrels a day. It's impressive.
Uh,
It's a,
and
how,
here's where it gets into the goofy part between these two, Venezuela, as well as several others. The Dark Fleet came around because Iran and Russia were really starting to get into the sanctions. So there are 500 to 600 dark fleet ships out there. These dark fleet, I put out there the other day. There's a line out of an old movie, Armando, that's called, you know, I believe it's Up Periscope, and the rust on this old submarine is so bad. This guy walks up and goes, I'm going to need a tetanus shot just by looking at this rust bucket. Okay. That's how bad these tankers are. They're old tankers that need to be retired. They turn their transponders off. They meet either outside of Greece, there's another two or three places around the world, and they offshore bring out from a legitimate, they go from their tanker to a legitimate tanker from somewhere else, and they make the transfers. So then the transfer is also going into rubles, is now very well established. India is buying all the oil they can from Russia
Russia,
in
Robles.
rubles. Now, here's where it gets funny. So you have all the oil going down to India, is just one of the spots. Then India is increasing their refined capacity by an estimated million barrels per day for refining. The customer is going back to the EU. And so the customers are the EU. China has just increased theirs another million barrels a day. I'm not sure when that's coming on. I'm trying to find out on when that's coming online. California has just shut down. Their Governor Newsom is canceling all of the oil downstream, the
Refining.
refinery capabilities in California. California has been talking to China to buy the refined products from China to bring it over to the United States. Working on that story. So when you sit back and take a look, why did Governor Newsom clean up the city for President Xi coming in uh, last time? Uh, and so now you're seeing this mix. The Russian, Venezuelan, anybody else that has been sanctioned is sending it to another tanker. That other tanker is then turning around and sending it to over here, and then it's being transported back. All of that CO2, let's say there's 1,800 tankers around the world, whatever
Yeah.
the number is. Half, a good 30% of the fleet is out of
Unnecessary.
unnecessary, and they're older tankers that need to be shut down.
Yeah.
How this is impacting the environment,
Environment.
it is because LNG is so much less. Do you think a old tanker that is not insured is going to use the um, better lower sulfur diesel that they're supposed to? I don't think
Yeah.
so.
And sometimes dark fleets, no?
Yep. And oh, it 30% of the oil. I mean, and this throws in another squirrel. And I want to
Uh,
hear feedback from everybody. How do we price oil anymore when you have this much that's now coming out?
sure.
You have China and Russia exchanging gold currency so they can sell more to each other. Oh, look at this map. Oh, Armando, you're just one. Look at this map.
It's
It,
impressive how they exchange materials and products and everything around the world without sense, no sense.
no, no sense. And here's what I was just off the phone. I am not kidding. Off the phone with some oil traders. They were looking for how to move things around, and they wanted product. And they were telling me about how weird this whole thing is. So I'm serious. It is an unbelievable mess that's going on. And that map is only a fraction.
Yeah,
That
fraction.
map is cool.
Yeah, but Stuart, are there other countries that you know in the world that apply sanctions like the United States, or only United
Oh,
States are applying?
United States and the EU are the primary ones, you know, Putin sanctioned some people in our government. You know, who cares? But you know, when you sit back and think, the sanctions our previous administration put in the United States did good. The weaponization that the this current administration has put on is demising the entire fiscal ability of the United States to survive. What that means is that who's going to buy the US debt at $33 trillion right now, soon to be 35? At $40 trillion seems to be the magic number I'm hearing out here, that we will not be able to. It will be the interest rate alone will be more than our Department of Defense. I've been interviewing several folks, and I've got other pretty big interviews coming up. And George McMillan has been pointing this out about how all of the geopolitical stuff plays into energy. But it's not only the geopolitical stuff, it's the actual trading and physicality that is also a problem.
Yeah,
We can take a look at the geopolitical, but we have to take a look at how OPEC and OPEC Plus, you worked at Petrobras before,
yeah,
and
32 years.
uh, thank you very much. I mean, you know what's going on out there. And when you take a look, Petrobras, the new CEO, is happy that Brazil joined BRICS Plus. But
Yeah,
Armando, wasn't it funny that he said, I don't care what my quota is. I'm going to produce everything I can.
but this is a very important point for us because see this map and see
Yep.
this map with just two arrows, the black ones.
Yep.
So see the rationale if it makes sense. The US has difficult relationship with Mexico. It's not
Yep. No.
good, sometimes not. Closed the Keystone XL project from Canada,
Yep.
imposed heavy sanctions to Venezuela, Uh, no help was made explicit for Guyana now in this situation. Do not
Yep.
consider Brazil as a partner, but sometimes I understand why Brazil is not simple. The US imports 7 million barrels per day in a 20 million consumption from a world of 100 million.
Right.
So why not use the All America consortium for oil production and consumption for the United
You,
States?
you're asking a brilliant question, almighty Armando. Here's why. So when you sit back and take a look at this, if the United States, Canada, Mexico, and South America, especially Venezuela and Brazil,
Mhm.
if we banded together, we would not need OPEC. The
Exactly.
blend, the blend, see, part of the problem is the blend. When you take a look at our refineries, they're geared up. They're not geared up for as the heavy Russian oil, and they're not geared up for straight. You got to blend them down into what the United States refineries are designed for. So we have to get our oil, even though we're producing more oil now than, we're the largest oil producer in the world, but it's the Permian sweet light that is the most, and our refineries are not geared for that. We have to blend it with other countries' oil. Now, other
Yeah.
countries can use our oil, and so it makes for a great
Yeah.
trading partner in sense. But
Mm.
OPEC would quite honestly lose all credibility around the world if we pulled up our big boy pants in North and South America and absolutely traded with each other for the betterment of humanity. Think about how much tankers
Yeah.
would not be traveling around.
How much CO2 we can avoid to emit with this operation?
And Tammy loves Canada, and I love Tammy's such just a great person.
Yeah.
And on Canada, if you had that pipeline, it was going to be at about 800,000 barrels per day. On
Mhm.
that 800,000 barrels per day, as it was coming in, think about how much in rail and diesel that would save on those
Yes.
rails. So you have again, right now, that oil is coming down from oil sands. What people don't realize is the Canadians have done a fabulous job with their regulatory issues in the sense of their reclamation projects for their oil are fantastic. The US is getting better. I have to say, though, that we're cleaner than Saudi Arabia, Iran, and all these other places around the world. Now, I have to applaud Saudi Aramco and Saudi Arabia for taking care of Saudi first. They are taking and using all their oil and gas reserves, and they're putting billions into hydrogen. They're putting billions into the renewable resources, and
Mhm.
so they're taking it, and guess what, Armando? They're not printing money to go
Yes.
renewable.
Yes.
That's part of the environmental statements that the US is failing. The US has reduced its carbon footprint
Yeah.
down by 22%. The EIA put out there that we did that by 22% by replacing coal plants with natural gas.
Mhm.
They don't want to admit that now. It's now politically bad for them to admit it. They said we're better now. China, as you have talked about with the great and the wondrous David Blackman, China is got 400 more coal plants permitted. The U.S. can't get anything. We can't even get our windmills applied,
Yes.
permitted
Yes.
anymore.
Yes. Yes.
So
That's right.
this whole paradigm shift is going negative against the environment because of the way green energy is trying to be shoved into the market. The environment, the wind, the solar would actually have a better chance of reducing a carbon footprint if they would work with the oil and gas companies like Saudi Arabia. And I think we saw that, Armando, in COP. We were talking about COP and how all the oil guys showed up.
Yes, that's right. That's right. There is another point that take my attention is OPEC, OPEC plus BRICS plus. They have a strong opposition to petrodollar. So
Oh,
I
yes.
long term it can be complicated. No, Stuart.
Short term. I think the petrodollar was going to be challenged. I think the current administration killed the petrodollar. I think the petrodollar is going to have a demise within the next 2 to 3 years of significant volume of people going away. I think the demise of the government is going to be, it's a fallacy to think that we can print money to go green It's a fallacy to think that people are going to buy the U.S. debt. And this is all because of sanctions and the environment. We are not taking care of the environment. We've weaponized the dollar and it's backfiring on the renewable folks. And if people want to understand, I'm a humanitarian. Let's give the lowest cost kilowatt per hour to everyone on the planet to
Sure.
elevate everyone out of poverty. Okay.
Yeah.
The entire discussion's on the table.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. You mentioned 35 to 40 trillion dollars debt.
US
Is it
is
is it payable?
well, it's yes, there's a significant chunk coming due next year. And so it's going, yeah, cash flow is going to be tough in the US. Why do you think they were trying to get 87,000 more IRS agents? It's so that they could go like do you remember Robin Hood? And they were trying to rob,
Yeah.
rob and they
Rich.
yeah, they and the Sherwood Forest was trying to tax everybody. The sheriff of Nottingham was going around taxing everybody. That's what they're trying to do. So you can only tax people so much before they quit working.
Yeah. We were talking about the CO2 and the environment problems, but
Right.
we we uh, uh, we have something very strange. India to boost oil refining capacity.
Yep. We just talked
What's
about that.
Yes, 1 million barrels per day a year until 2028. So
Yep.
a few countries are investing in refineries. What's the what's the reason they are doing this?
Well, it's because the EVs, we are not going to go to EVs. And I like the concept of the electronic vehicle. I like the concept of wind. I like the concept of solar. But India has such a population that they need power. They need all forms of power. They
One
need wind,
1.5
solar,
billion people, yeah.
they are going to need. Pakistan needs them. Needs all of the power. The poor folks in Pakistan need a stable grid, and I can guarantee you that when you sit back and look at China, India, and any of those countries are doing the best they can to get the lowest kilowatt per hour to their people.
Mhm.
Again, we, King Coal is back, and coal is not your friend for the environment. My The great and wondrous David Blackman was on the podcast this morning. He recorded a podcast with Hugo Kruger, I believe is his name, out of South Africa. And South Africa has enough coal in order to supply the world with coal for 600 years. So coal is cheap. Mark McMillan, who is on my podcast, is talking about the geopolitical. If you can't provide or protect low cost energy, that country is not going to be your ally. So what is the US doing? They are ruining the lives of people around the world by sanctioning oil and increasing the prices.
But Stuart, if India, China, Pakistan are investing in refining capacity and the West are not doing the same, very soon they will be exporting diesel, gasoline from their countries to our
You,
countries. Is it true?
you are dead on right. Contracts are probably already being done. I'm trying to get some more details on a lot of that, but I can guarantee you, California is already using they are using 70% of the crude oil that is done in the rainforest. I believe you've heard of this thing in the
Yeah,
rainforest. All of the Chinese drilling that is going on in the rainforest, whichever the environmentalists really
sure.
would like to protect, the rainforest needs to be protected. So let's get the drilling out of the rainforest. But California is so hypocritical in their energy usage that they are destroying the rainforest. So there's another piece of your puzzle on the hypocrisy that's going on.
What could be done to reduce CO2 in terms of logistics and crude movements?
Pipelines.
Pipelines.
Pipelines could eliminate. Uh, we wouldn't have to worry about renewable energy. We could do more for the environment if we invested in pipelines. Trillions have been invested in renewable energy to the detriment of the environment. And if anybody, Armando, reaches out to you, my offer is I want them on my podcast. If you have any numbers, if you are a world leader, if you are a if you care about the environment, if you care about saving humanity, I want to talk to you. If you think that oil and gas is the only way to go, I want to talk to you. If you think that wind and solar is important, nuclear is important. But Armando, the number one way that we can help people is to quit printing money. Number two, get all the pipelines you can in. As an example, in the United States, the pipelines, New York will not allow pipelines. They want to do carbon capture and they need 7,000 miles of pipeline in order to do carbon capture for the requirements that the Biden administration released on their last 3 o'clock right before COP started. Dumbest regulatory requirements I have ever seen. I'm still going through them. They are not going to allow them. And so what they're going to do is they're going to make the coal electricity so expensive, the United States is going to have blackouts, rolling blackouts like Pakistan.
You mentioned pipelines, and is this is the case of Nord Stream that was exploded, and instead of that, we are using 50 ship cargoes every week from the United States to Europe. Was that CO2 emissions is something big, huge.
Oh, it is. I was looking at that before the show. Let me see if I've got it right here. I've got it right here. Hang on. 10 million metric tons of oil tankers in 2020.
Wow.
210 million metric tons in 2020. That's of the reported tankers. The dark fleet is out there. That number's low. By how much? I'm going to throw a rock at it and say probably 25% low.
Yeah.
Now, China just laid keel on a nuclear cargo ship. I applaud China for that. How cool is that? A cargo ship that's nuclear, that's about as carbon neutral as you get.
And how about Nord Stream? So we should repair this pipeline to pump from Russia again?
If you're an environmentalist, yes.
Oh yeah,
If
good,
you
good, good, good answer.
if you even there's even one still working. Still, there's one. There were four. Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 had four pipelines. And I went to Oklahoma State University, and so three of them were blown up. That leaves one that still could be used. That would be better than what they have now. Now, Germany has failed as a country, and their GDP is failing. They
Yeah,
have been tubed for many, many years. They have killed their industrial
yeah,
complex. And
yes,
it's because of the loss of cheap Russian natural gas. So, where the German economy goes in the EU, so goes the EU. My prediction is that we will see hard times next year in the EU, to the point there's going to be enough people not happy with the EU. Brexit may be the first.
Mhm.
I'm believing that there will be more. I
And
think countries are tired of the EU.
yeah, and Germany closed the last three nuclear plants, returning to coal, importing nuclear energy, electricity from France.
Yep.
So it's nonsense decisions.
No, in fact, do you remember uh, the wind farm where Greta was being carried out in the photo shoot?
Yeah.
She was in Germany, and they were taking pictures of that because they were going to close. They wanted to close the coal mine. That coal in order to build the wind farm. That wind farm is being taken down so they can continue that open strip mine. Strip mining is about the worst thing you can do. I am Coal is needed to elevate energy, just like Alex Epstein has always said. It's about energy to reduce out people from population. And when you sit back and Chris Wright, the CEO of Liberty Frac, is also a gigantic champion of the humanitarian aspect of energy. And I mean, it those two are have been the inspiration for me over the last several years of my passion for elevating humanity and being the best you can to the environment. Chris Wright stood up in front of the video on YouTube and he drank his frac fluid with his staff. You have to, as a CEO, drinking your frac fluid of saying, I am not destroying the earth with my getting the oil out of the ground. I have all the respect in the world for that man.
On Monday, next Monday, we have a new podcast with Stuart Tully, Temi Nimet, and David Blackman and myself, and we are discussing the return of after COP28. But do you believe that COP28 discussed the unnecessary logistics that are being used with so big CO2 emissions, or they do not know about these issues?
The carries of the world, the all of the climate um, fear mongering people are part of the wealth transfer they're trying to take from the rich, and they're trying to give to the rich. And then they're trying to basically stab the consumers around the world in the back. And they're doing it in the name of climate change. Um, if they were true humanitarians, they would be putting in water. We would be putting in clean water stations around the world. We would be putting pipelines so we wouldn't have to ship these things in here. We would be helping Africa build nuclear plants. We would be training people on how to do these things. Grace Stanke, the Miss America out of US. I got to interview her while she was in Dubai. What a class act, going around championing humanity through low cost energy of nuclear. Wow, we can save the world. We can get to net zero. We can do it, but it's got to take two parties.
Yes.
Their side doesn't want to listen. They don't want to even hear facts, and they do not want to pay for it. They think that they have the right to demand payment.
Yeah, that's right.
We're about out of
Uh,
time, though.
Stuart, going to the conclusions, please give me a number. Uh, Unnecessary logistics that we could save CO2 emissions. How much is in terms of 100%? So unnecessary logistics that we could cut could be 20%, 30%, or a different
I
number.
think if you and I were running the oil, and we would be up there with the OPECs and everything else. I guarantee you, we could cut 10% the first year. I'm going to throw a number out that I know that we could go to 20% or 30% total in 2 years if we had the authority to change things. I guarantee you. So, not only could we get rid of 200 million metric tons, we would
Yeah.
whittle that away and have more impact. You and I would have more impact on the world's pollution than anyone
Any
else.
other
I
day.
feel that strongly about it.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm an
Strong number.
egotistical maniac.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Was a great pleasure to talk to you. That's always, always.
Thank you,
You are
Armando. I
you are
do
fantastic.
appreciate you.
Yeah.
So thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you. And Monday we will be again together to talk. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
We'll see you
Have a
then.
great day, great weekend too.